Hi, I've been trying to work with the Ingress charts for many regions across the world, and I also did a video with my friend Jolly Knot, and then I visited again um, the charts of 2025 as well, just to kind of see how things were actually moving on. And I really found something interesting, which I just wanted to share, and I hope to kind of share a few more thoughts like this on a regular basis as well. So let's get started. And this is about Russia. Um, I'll go ahead and just share my screen with the presentation that I made. So it's called On the Brink, Russia's Impending Leadership Shift. So as we know, uh, I'm anticipating that there will be a leadership shift in Russia or a major change in the political climate of Russian Federation, Russia, as we know today. And as it is, you can find my work on the abverdict.com. And I also send a regular newsletter recently through Substack. So even if you register to receive emails through my website, you will receive the newsletter that I send via Substack. So with that out of the way, the contents. First, we'll look at the forecast. So, if anyone doesn't want to kind of look, the astrological analysis can basically drop off. And then Aries Ingress of 2024, which is the March 20th of 2024. And then Libra Ingress, followed by Aries Ingress of 2025, and Cancer Ingress, Libra Ingress, and Capricorn Ingress of 2025. So I think we'll be spending a lot of time on Aries Ingress 2024 and Libra Ingress 2024 and Aries Ingress 2025. And just quickly run through Cancer Ingress, Libra Ingress, and Capricorn Ingress of 2025. The forecast is I anticipate that Russia's future will be marked by decline as a consequence of the end of current President Vladimir Putin's regime. So why do I say that? So for that, we need to analyze some Ingress charts. Basically, Ingress charts were used by the medieval astrologers to understand the political or socio-political or economic or any landscape that we want to analyze for any particular nation. So as opposed to the national charts that are used today, medieval astrologers concentrated on revolutions like what we use for the nativities, which is called as solar revolutions or solar returns, as it is called in modern day. The world also had revolutions, which began with the entry of sun into Aries. So whether it is tropical Aries or sidereal Aries is always a controversial subject. Let's not get into that. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'm using the tropical zodiac to analyze the Ingress charts. So so I stick to the traditional methods of analyzing the revolutions of the world by casting Ingress charts, but Ingress charts are not the only mundane charts. So we have a huge set of analysis, uh, or the tricks of trade, as we may call, like which starts from the great conjunction, that is the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, and also the cycles of great conjunction and the triplicity shifts that happen every 200 years. So the entire cycle of great conjunction is basically 800 years, and we can split that into triplicities, where 200 years each will have a great conjunction in one triplicity. And then we move on to Ingress charts, and then obviously Jupiter Saturn conjunction every time, and then Saturn Mars conjunction, and also Jupiter Mars conjunction. So the medieval astrologers called the great conjunction equivalent to Jupiter Saturn conjunction, and Saturn Mars conjunction as middle conjunction, and lesser conjunction was Jupiter and Mars conjunction. So all these conjunctions are always important for different purposes. So, and for this talk, we'll stick to Ingress charts, and we also need to look at eclipses and the lunations that occur every fortnight. So lunations are also extremely important in the context of Indian astrology. So let's look at the Aries ingress of Russia that is cast to Moscow. Aries ingress 2024. So we can see that Pisces is rising with Venus exalted, and Saturn is also placed in Pisces. So Saturn is a malefic planet and Venus is a benefic planet, and Venus is also the benefic of the sect. But Venus also rules the eighth house, which is a blemish in this case. So Venus, as opposed to what we can expect as uh, like Venus could bring some great benefic results for Russia during this year. I think apart from the ability of the nation to kind of withstand the challenges and troubles, uh, I think the troubles are going to mount for Russia, especially eighth house indicates sudden transformations or challenges that sometimes kind of indicate a major shift in the progress of the nation. So Venus is also very closely uh, sorry. Yeah, Venus is also very closely conjunct Saturn, which means there is affliction to Venus. So in this case, the victor of the chart. So victor is basically the planet that has domicile strength or exaltation strength or term strength in one of the angular houses or the angles. So in this case, 1, 4, 7, 10. So we see that no planets are placed in 4, 7, 10 angles, and Venus is holding exaltation in Pisces in the first house. So naturally, Venus is victor, and the Lord of the MC is significant to understand the condition of the king. So, in order to identify the overall progress of the nation, we need to analyze the victor and also the Lord of the MC. So, Lord of the MC in this case is Jupiter because the MC is placed in Sagittarius. Um, and Venus is the victor. So, let's first analyze Venus. Venus is afflicted, although it's exalted. Venus has affliction due to its co-presence with Saturn, and Saturn rules 11th and the 12th houses. On the one hand, we can say that there is a lot of gains and benefit results that Russia might get from its allies. Um, there is also this possibility of losing someone, and also a huge amount of uncertainty, especially because of the ongoing war with Ukraine. And war is again highlighted because of Mars's presence in the 12th house. And Mars rules the second house of Aries and also the ninth house of foreign diplomacy. So Mars is placed in the 12th house of war and loss and uncertainty. So Mars is going to amplify and kind of quicken all these matters because Mars always indicates quick, rash things. So, and Mars is also placed in the bounds of Saturn, and Mars has no reception from Saturn because Mars and Saturn are in aversion to each other. So the Mars condition is very, very indicative of the losses, especially not just loss because of war, but also loss in terms of economy and finance, because Mars rules the second house. So the second ruler in the 12th house indicates amplification of expenses and losses. And Rahu is placed in the second house. With the second ruler not in a great condition, we can safely conclude that Rahu in the second house is detrimental to this chart, thereby directly uprooting the current economic situation of Russia. And Mercury is placed in its own bounds, but Mercury rules the fourth and the seventh house for Sagittarius rising, and Mercury is also obviously closely conjunct Rahu, and therefore it is afflicted. So we can identify. Uh, uh, I mean, we can we can delineate that there will be problems related to trade or commerce, and also the domestic situation in Russia will be disrupted because of Rahu's presence with, Mercury's presence with Rahu, because any planet that is placed in the nodal axis has to undergo a major imbalance. So Mercury's natural significations are trade, commerce, and economy. So in this case, Mercury in the second house in its own terms, although it indicates some benefic or a reasonably sustainable results in terms of economy and finance, I think the eclipse of Mercury by its presence in the nodal axis is not really going to help the cause. And to analyze the economic situation further, we need to look at the fifth house. The angles of 2, 5, 8, 11 are really important to analyze the financial condition of the nation, because second house indicates immediate financial situation and overall economy of the nation, and the fifth house indicates the reserves of the nation, and the eighth house indicates the amount or money or income that the nation is going to gain from other countries or other sources, and 11th house is the gains in general of the nation. So fifth ruler, the moon, which is actually declining in the sixth house. It's cadent in Leo, so moon cannot do much harm, and it also indicates that there will be a lot of spending for services or military. So 12th house indicates Mars. Mars in 12th house indicates spending for weapons, and sixth house indicates spending for military causes or defense. So, depletion of reserves or money that they have stored over the period of time is kind of going away for the Russian spending of military services. And on the other hand, we have the eighth house, Ketu. Ketu is obviously the planet of detachment and draining wherever it is actually placed. So, and eighth house is also the house of challenges and sudden transformation. So, and eighth house is, I consider that eighth house is also the house of oil and all those, apart from fourth house. Eighth house is also indicative of deep stuff in the world. So, Ketu in the eighth house is going to deplete income that Russia has been gaining through oil and natural gas over a very long period of time. And Ketu is basically the lord of depletion, not necessarily the lord of depletion. Saturn does, Saturn is considered to be the lord of depletion, but I think Ketu can also be identified as planet that can deplete resources, because Ketu detaches or snatches. So in this case, income from other sources, basically. And the ruler of the eighth house, Venus, is obviously exalted. But again, Venus is placed with the lord of depletion or misery. So there is some problems. It's not going to end overall or overnight, but I think it's probably beginning to kind of decline, that Russia cannot focus just on oil or natural gas for a very long time, and this might just indicate that it has started big time. And 11th ruler, obviously, Saturn is placed in the first house. Saturn has no dignity, and Saturn is peregrine in the first house of Pisces. And Saturn is naturally slow, and Pisces, water sign, Saturn is obviously very, very slow, and there is no vision for Saturn in the first house. So obviously Saturn is received by Venus, but it only can help to some extent. So the economic situation is not really great for Russia, and also overall challenges seem to be increasing as it is. And I just kind of very consciously put the lot of kingdom and the lot of kingship in this chart. I won't get into how to calculate these lots. I think that's for some other time. But if you see, both the lot of kingship and kingdom are placed in the eighth house and the 12th house, respectively. Both are evil houses or houses of aversion from the ascendant. So it kind of is indicative of the fact that there is some kind of challenge or decline or transformation that's taking place in kingdom and kingship as far as Russia as the nation is concerned. To summarize, Venus Saturn conjunction in the first house, we spoke about it. Second ruler Mars in the 12th house. Money that's received or money that they have is kind of going off to expenses, especially in terms of weapons, because Mars indicates weapons. Mercury and Rahu in the second house indicates trouble in immediate economic situation and also the immediate necessities of the nation, because second house indicates necessities. Ketu in the eighth house, we spoke a lot about it, the Lord of detachment. A lot of MC, Jupiter is cadent in the third house. Yeah, I think we have to speak about this. The Lord of the MC is indicative of the condition of the king. So MC is placed in the bounds of Saturn, which is a decline in itself. And the Lord of the 10th house, Jupiter, is actually placed in the third house. And Jupiter is obviously placed in its own bounds, but Jupiter is cadent. In my opinion and in my understanding, even an exalted or planet in domicile, if it's cadent and if it's aspected by malefics, it's a little difficult situation, and their dignity doesn't really matter. But in this case, Jupiter really doesn't have much dignity in Taurus except for owning a bound in which it is actually placed. But Jupiter is aspected by Saturn, that is one malefic, and Jupiter is also aspected. It's a wide aspect, but still whole sign aspect is persistent between Jupiter and Mars. So the king, assume that Jupiter is king. So Jupiter is going to find challenges from one is from foreign sources, because Mars is placed in the 12th house. 12th house indicative of foreign land. Mars aspect in the king. The king is going to get problems from foreign sources. On the other hand, Saturn ruling the 12th house, that is the foreign land, is also aspecting uh, Jupiter. So the planet, the malefic or the infortune that is configured with the victor or the Lord of the MC is going to bring challenges to either the king or the nation. In this case, Saturn is conjunct Venus, and both Saturn and Mars are actually aspecting the Lord of the MC, or that is the king, Jupiter. So overall, there is a lot of decline as far as the condition of the king is concerned, and Cadent House is naturally indicative of decline. So the situation is very bleak and gloomy. Uh, yeah, I think we spoke enough. Moon in the sixth house. So Moon in the sixth house is again, Moon is indicative of people in mundane astrology. We spoke about Moon as the fifth ruler, but Moon in the sixth house indicates the troubled situation, or the situation that is kind of hindering the growth of people in Russia, is very, very descriptive of the moon placed in the sixth house. So yeah, uh, and yeah, Saturn. We have to talk about MC. Saturn squares MC. So the infortune that either aspects the Lord of the MC or the MC itself brings challenges to the nation. Sorry, brings challenges to the king, and Saturn is aspecting from the first house. So maybe the nation itself is not happy with their king, or there's going to be some kind of uh, a revolt, or maybe I don't think there is a very uh, good strong opposition between Moon and Mars to conclude that there will be a revolt, but there is something that's going on in the nation that people are not happy with their current leader. So that's the case we are seeing in this chart. So let's quickly move on to the uh, Libra Ingress of 2024. So I think we have to ignore the notes that I've given here. I think it's just replicating the notes of Aries Ingress. So yeah, sorry about that, but I'm sure I'll kind of touch up all the parts that we actually need to. So in the reason why we are actually casting the Libra ingress is because the mutable sign is rising in Aries ingress. So if a mutable sign rises, we have to cast two ingress charts for air, that is Aries ingress and Libra ingress. If the rising sign is fixed, we'll just use only Aries ingress. And if the mutable sign is, sorry, if the rising sign of the Aries ingress is cardinal, we have to cast all four ingress charts, that is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So in this case, since Pisces mutable sign is rising in Aries ingress chart, so we'll be casting the Libra ingress. So the Libra ingress is basically has is having Capricorn rising, and the Lord of uh, the first house is placed in the third house, is retrograde, is peregrine, and also Cadent indicates decline. So Saturn is absolutely miserable, which indicates the condition of the nation itself. So then we have to find out which planet is the victor. So obviously, Venus is victor in this chart because Venus is holding dignity in Libra, and therefore Venus is victor in this chart. Um, but whether whether or not the condition of Venus is as good as its domicile strength is a little questionable, because Venus is moving from its domicile to detriment in Scorpio. So Venus's strength by whole sign, it is strong with domicile strength, but again it's moving out of its domicile very quickly. And yeah, Victor is actually afflicted by nodal axis for sure, uh, and it's not a really good sign, because when a victor is indicative of the nation and nation's progress basically. So the planet that is the victor, if it is falling in the nodal axis, it causes or indicates imbalance in the nation's progress, and also challenges that we might face. Uh, uh, I mean, the challenges that we could see in the nation, uh, or the decline, or challenges that might bring about the fall or decline of the nation, and transformations that will be forceful, or the transformations that will kind of put that particular nation down for a very long time, and their position on the global platform will become very bad when the victor planet, in this case Venus, is falling the nodal axis. Lot of the MC is Mars. A lot of the MC, as we already discussed, is descriptive of the condition of the king, and the Lord of the MC is debilitated in the seventh house of Cancer. So the condition of the king is basically debilitated. That's what we have to understand from here. But Cancer, Mars in Cancer is also indicative of unpredictability in all uh, significations of Mars, the natural signification of Mars. So Mars naturally signifies war, action, desire, and in this case, everything will be unconditional, and we can kind of naturally see the rashness of the king during this period, which is basically during the, I mean, after September 22nd of 2024. So, and one more difficult thing is that the Mars is not only debilitated, but it is also squared by the nodes, which is a very precarious situation for the king. And we don't know, anything might happen, which could kind of bring about the decline or the end of that particular king once and for all. So that is one of the very difficult situations that we could see in this chart. Mars is also, I mean, Mars' debilitation also indicates that the king might decline because of their own rashness. And seventh house indicates direct opposition or direct enemies. So there could be something that's brewing behind the scenes, which might directly hit the leader of the nation during this time, and it might bring about their downfall or maybe the beginning of the big decline. Um, and again, in this chart, if you see, the lot of the kingdom and kingship are placed in the 8th house and the 12th house, respectively. So the ruler of the lot of kingship is Jupiter, and Jupiter is cadent and also peregrine in the 6th house. So there is no hope uh, for the kingship to survive. So it again indicates decline. Um, and the lot of kingdom ruler is the sun, and sun is fallen in Libra in the 10th house, and the 10th house is the house of administration, and the 4th house is the house of domestic situation, so which is home, and in this case the nation. And the nodes will cause imbalance and challenges in the domestic situation of the nation. Especially Rahu brings about sudden transformation or changes or disruption in the situation of the nation and its people, and also the well-being of the nation in general and its people. Ketu in the 10th house indicates detachment or depletion, uh, or kind of a major shift in the administration. 10th house is administration, and the the house in which MC is placed is indicative of the king. So both are very, very different. So uh, so in this case, Ketu is placed in the 10th house, and it also eclipses or basically uh, afflicts the sun, which is again a very, very challenging thing. Despite, I mean, sun is debilitated, and over that, it's also afflicted by the nodal axis, which is very, very bad, and also bad for the administration. Apart from that, the ruler of the rising sign and also the second house, Saturn, is retrograde and peregrine in the 3rd house, and it also afflicts the as a natural malefic, and Saturn afflicts the uh, prenatal lunation, which indicates the the overall mindset or uh, the inherent progress or the condition of the nation. So there is a lot of affliction in that sense as well. And um, Saturn also indicates the continuous decline from the Aries ingress period to the Libra ingress period as far as the economic situation is concerned, and the retrogression only indicates further derailment or decline. And apart from that, we have the moon in the 6th house, and in Aries ingress as well, we had moon in the 6th house of Gemini. In this case, again, it's a far off reception or square with Mercury, but I don't think we can really consider that. But Mercury is uh, pretty strong in the 9th house of Virgo. So let's get to that. But the condition of the people, which is indicated by the moon, is also very challenging, because the 6th house is indicative of hurdles and troubles, or also problems caused by hidden matters or sometimes even hidden enemies. Mercury is placed in the 9th house. There could be some kind of support because of export in terms of financial matters, and they could find some kind of progress as far as the trade and commerce is concerned, primarily because Mercury is exalted in the 9th house of Virgo. Um, and on the other hand, there could be some kind of stability or a little bit of a regaining situation as far as the foreign diplomacy is concerned. Uh, Given the fact that Ketu is placed in the 4th house, and seventh ruler Moon is placed in the 6th house, and also Mars is debilitated in the 7th house, where there is so much of besiegement in terms of whatever is happening from the external forces. I think on the one hand, Russia will feel a little relieved with what is happening in the 9th house. So that is one thing to take away as a positive. But apart from that, I think the overall situation has not really improved from the Aries ingress. So 2024, as opposed to what is the ground reality at this point might end up really challenging and precarious for Russia as we progress through the year. So that's it for Libra Ingress, and then comes Saturn Mars conjunction of 2024, which is just a week away at this point. I'll quickly run through uh, Saturn Mars conjunction. Saturn Mars conjunction is actually used to understand the adversities, primarily the adversities by the medieval astrologers. So Sagittarius is rising. And if you go back and see the Aries Ingress chart, Sagittarius is the 10th house, and Sagittarius is rising in Saturn Mars conjunction chart. So there is a lot about leadership that's coming to the forefront in the Eastern horizon, because uh, Sagittarius is the 10th house, obviously. And fourth house of Pisces is completely afflicted by Mars and Saturn. So, which indicates a complete disruption of the domestic situation and problems with allies. Maybe trade and commerce will also be cut off because Mercury is also not very strong, and Mercury rules the 10th house. Mercury is combust, Mercury is dark, Mercury is retrograde. So something is brewing behind the scenes as far as Mercury is concerned. Mercury ruling the lot of kingship, and also the 10th house of administration is placed in the 5th house and is combust. So the problems are really going to start with the current Saturn Mars conjunction itself. And that is number one disruption or the beginning of decline. And obviously, nodal axis, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are all afflicted by the nodal axis well within the orb of 12 degrees. So there is no wide orb. So basically, in the 5th house, complete depletion of resources is basically beginning with Saturn Mars conjunction. And we discussed about the condition of Saturn and Mars in the 4th house, both natural malefics, aspecting the ascendant, aspecting the 10th house, and also aspecting the lot of kingship is going to cause challenges for the nation and also for the administration. A ruler of the MC, that is in this case, the planet that indicates the condition of the king, is also in the nodal axis, that is Venus. Venus is in its own bound, but it's eclipsed by Rahu. So it can indicate, again, rashness. Condition of the king, Venus and Rahu indicates rashness, and Venus can indicate uh, problems in diplomatic solutions. There is no liaising, there is cutting off of the ties uh, with diplomatic partners. And 11th house is indicative of friends. Ketu is placed in the 11th house, and MC, the indicator of the king, is also in the 11th house. And Venus, the ruler of the MC and also the indicator of the condition of the king, is eclipsed. So MC is also afflicted by the nodal axis. So whenever the nodal axis afflicts the MC and also the lord of the MC, the situation is given to change, and there is absolutely no doubt about that. So the situation is changing as far as the Russian leader is concerned. And again, if you see, the lot of the kingdom is placed in the 12th house. Lot of kingship is placed in the 10th house, but the lot of kingdom is placed in the 12th house of decline in the bounds of Mars. The 10th ruler, indicating the administration of Russia, is placed in the 5th house, and it is combust. We already discussed about it. And the ruler of the rising sign of all, Jupiter, is cadent in the 6th house. It's in its own terms, and it's conjunct the moon, but it's cadent. So it's not going to help. It's again indicating the decline of the nation. Um, the Victor, it's really difficult in this chart. So no planets in angles. So let's conclude that no planet in angle itself is a mark of decline. So and Mars and Saturn in the fourth house, it obviously indicates the recent terror attack in Russia, and we could expect some more calamities or challenges like this as well, because Mars and Saturn together in the fourth house of the domestic situation or domestic environment of the nation is actually going to be a major affliction and detriment in general. So the Aries Ingress of 2025, this is the most challenging chart of all as far as I am concerned. Cancer is rising and Mars is obviously fallen in the first house, and Mars is the ruler of, Mars is not the ruler of the MC. Jupiter is the ruler of the MC. Sorry about that. But Mars, which is placed in the first house as the ruler of the 10th house, I meant to mention the 10th house, is indicative of the decline of the condition of the Russian administration itself, because 10th house indicates administration and Mars is fallen in the first house of Cancers, which indicates the administration of the nation naturally leading to the administration, decline of the nation. 10th house is administration, first house is the nation. The debilitation of the 10th ruler of administration is leading to the decline of the nation. And again, Mars, the planet of war, problems because of war, challenges because of war, and decline or detrimental situation because of war. MC obviously is afflicted by Mars. MC is obviously afflicted by Saturn with its close conjunction, and MC is also well within the orb of the nodal axis, in this case Rahu, which again indicates a rashness of the king or utterly difficult situation of the king. And it also, in this case, if you see, MC is not only afflicted by the nodal axis, it is also afflicted by the seventh ruler, Saturn, which indicates direct enemies. So affliction of the king because of direct enemies. And here it's a double affliction where the MC is afflicted by Rahu and Saturn. So this is a major shift or transformation or imbalance in the condition of the king of Russia. Venus is in the 10th house of Aries. Venus is in its detriment in Aries, except for being in its own terms. Sun is exalted in Aries, but again, Sun is very early in Aries, and it only indicates a very, very young Sun into the sign. And Sun is also not too far from the nodal axis. So that should be counted as well, which is basically an affliction to the Sun. Venus is combust, Mercury is combust. Mercury, which rules the 3rd and the 12th house, is placed in the 10th house, which indicates cadent. 12th ruler, cadent ruler. 12th house, uncertainty, loss, expenses, challenges, war is placed in the 10th house. So quickly derailing the administration of the nation. Venus is combust, 4th and the 11th ruler, basically afflicting the domestic situation and also the gains of the nation. So Moon again. So one of the most interesting patterns, Moon in the 6th house in all the charts. So Moon is indicative of people, and people are not very, very happy with the situation in Russia. So that is one thing. And the Lord of the MC, Jupiter, is placed in the 12th house, which is cadent and indicative of decline. And both the nodes square the Lord of the MC, which again is indicative of major imbalance or shift in the condition of the king. And Saturn also squares Jupiter. which indicates another affliction because of the seventh house matters, that is direct enemies. And it's needless to mention Saturn as the eighth ruler brings a lot more affliction. So we don't even need to get into that in a very detailed manner. So one more thing that you want to consider is the affliction by Ketu. Uh, I mean the affliction of the prenatal lunation by Ketu, which indicates the fact that uh, the challenges of the past is coming to bite the present. So yeah. Um, and obviously Mars, debilitated Mars, aspects the 10th house, which can be considered as a reception in this case. But again, we see a lot of combustion in the 10th house. So it's basically kind of the darkness prevailing in the Russian government or administration. And I also anticipate that the first month, that is the month of this ingress, that is March 20 to April 20, to be a very, very precarious situation for a major event that could alter the geopolitical situation of the entire world because of what happens in Russia. And it could be the regime change. Cancer ingress. Cancer ingress, Cancer is rising, Jupiter is exalted in the first house. We might get excited, but compass planets don't really do well. And that's been my experience in mundane astrology. So uh, Jupiter is exalted, but it's combust, unable to kind of uh, get through the darkness that it really wants to kind of uh, defeat. A lot of the MC is placed in Pisces in the ninth house. A lot of the MC is exalted in the first house, but it is also combust. 12th ruler Mercury in the first house closely conjunct the ascendant, and it indicates a lot of uncertainty and also the continuous decline of the nation. Saturn is debilitated in the 10th house and it squares both the Sun and Jupiter very, very tightly. Saturn is debilitated in the 10th house. Remember, 10th house is the house of administration and government, and Saturn is debilitated. That is, the Lord of the MC is debilitated, indicates the debilitated condition of the king afflicting the 10th house of administration and government. And a lot of, again, the theme is MC is afflicted by the nodal axis. Rahu is conjunct MC, and in this case, both kingdom and kingship. The lot of kingdom and kingship is considered. I mean, it's basically afflicted by Rahu. And prenatal lunation is also squared by Rahu. So one thing is the Lord of the MC is afflicted by uh sorry. Yeah, the Lord of the MC Jupiter is combust, one thing, and the MC indicating the king itself is afflicted by the nodal axis, and the prenatal lunation is also kind of squaring the nodes, which is very, very challenging. And we can also see the square that is a malefic squaring Jupiter. So that is Saturn aspecting Jupiter. And again, in this case, Saturn rules the seventh house, and Jupiter is the indicator of the condition of the king. So Jupiter is the king itself. So Saturn, the ruler of direct enemies, squaring the king, Jupiter, indicates problems for the king from external sources or direct enemies. Venus and Moon are exalted in the 11th house, which might give a glimmer of a hope for the people and also for some kind of gains. I don't know from where it will come, especially given the situation of the nation that we have discussed over the course of past three ingresses. Yeah, don't think I have much to say. Yeah, Venus is sorry. The moon is the ruler of the first house and it's placed in the 11th house. So the glimmer of hope of the situation is that maybe Russia is slowly trying to come back from the situation as a nation, and it might kind of try and garner some help from other countries, 11th houses, allies. So it might indicate that the nation is trying to get help from other countries or allies. But overall, the situation is a little challenging uh, uh, because of the fact that MC is afflicted and a lot of the MCs combust, and 12th ruler is placed in the first house. Uh, while it might indicate some kind of progress in terms of trade and commerce, it's also indicative of uncertainties and too much of uncertainties. That is basically, uh, you know, visible from other planetary placements as well. Libra Ingress of 2025. Mercury, the ruler of the first house, is in the fifth house. It's combust. That's one thing, so which indicates challenge for the nation. Do we see any planet in the angle? No, no planet has dignity in angle, except that Saturn holds, uh, a dignity that is in its own terms in Pisces, and Saturn is obviously weak in Pisces, except for being in its own terms. So Saturn is basically the victor in this planets. Can you imagine a planet in its uh, in a sign that it's not doing well, basically goes peregrine, but it's the victor because of its uh, bound strength. But Saturn is again afflicted by the nodal axis. So one major theme is that the lord of the MC, that is the planet that indicates the condition of the king, has been afflicted in all the charts that we have seen so far. And whenever we see the planet indicating the condition of the king afflicted by the nodes, we see a major shift and transformations. And I think I'm mentioning it for the seventh or eighth time now, but it deserves mentioning. The MC placed in Aquarius is also squared by Mars. It's a wide square, 11-degree square, but it's still a very, very potent square. So and Mars is very strong in Scorpio, and Mars ruling the sixth house doesn't do well much for. Doesn't do so much good for Scorpio rising. So it's not a very, very good square that MC is having here. It's basically an affliction. Jupiter ruling the 10th house of administration is basically receiving Saturn. So there is surely some kind of little progress because of the mitigation that we have. So there might be something that Russia will find in terms of economic progress, because second house indicative of immediate economy has an exalted Jupiter, which also happens to rule the 10th house. So the aspect of Jupiter over trine aspect, basically over Saturn and North Node, can surely come across as a mitigating aspect. But Venus is debilitated in the fourth house along with the nodal axis, which kind of further indicates prevalent challenges at a very, very large scale within the nation in domestic situation. Civil war, no, maybe, probably. But there is some kind of a violent challenge that we are going to see during this time. Uh, so I think, yeah, prenatal lunation obviously afflicted by the nodal axis, very much indicative of domestic situation, and Mars squares the MC. So I think that's it for Libra Ingress chart. Now the final chart, which is the Capricorn Ingress chart, LMC. LMC is basically Lord of MC. So I should have mentioned it before. Is retrograde in the first house. It's exalted, but it's a retrograde. So it kind of indicates a growth, but also a little bit of a derailment. And obviously, there is a derailment because naturally we can see that Saturn is placed in the ninth house, that is afflicting the law MC itself, and MC is again placed in the nodal axis. And this is not by chance, like MC or the lord of the MC afflicted by nodal axis in almost all the charts. So in this case, MC is basically besieged on the one hand by Rahu and on the other side by Saturn. But again, let's hope that Jupiter's trine aspect or the reception is going to kind of act as a mitigating factor. But Saturn, uh, receiving its aspect from Mars, very strong, exalted in the seventh house of Capricorn, in the house of direct enemies, is a little bit of an affliction as well, because again it indicates problems from external sources or direct enemies. But Mars is again combust, so maybe they won't see what is happening at this point. So things might happen in the background, and it might come back to bite at some point in the future. Uh, Exaltation ruler of the Lord of the MC is placed in the sixth house of Sagittarius in decline. So there is only one mitigation, as far as we can see, which is Jupiter's trine with MC, Saturn, and the Node. So yeah, basically we are seeing a lot of challenges in this chart as well. Mm. Yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of skim through Libra and Capricorn charts, and primarily wanted to pay attention to the first three charts, two ingresses of 2024 and one ingress of 2025. Uh, yeah, the moon is, I mean, obviously Jupiter is the victor in this chart. There's no doubt about it. Uh, but Jupiter is also having a whole sign square with Mars, not an exact square, but Jupiter is opposed by the moon, and moon, which is ruling the first house, is actually placed in the seventh house, and is afflicted by Mars, and also takes this aspect from Saturn, which is a reception. But I think the condition of the moon is not really great. Moon is detriment, afflicted by Mars, and on the other hand, uh, very much applying to Saturn. So it indicates derailment and problems for the people. The condition of the people of the nation is very, very bad. And overall, the nation itself is facing challenges, except for the fact that Jupiter, although it's retrograde, might end up being a little bit of a savior. Fourth and 11th ruler Venus is placed in the sixth house, afflicting the gains, and also the very well stated fact that is the immediate welfare of the people or domestic environment of the nation is going for a toss, because Venus is placed in the sixth house, and Venus is not really happy in Sagittarius, and moreover, Venus is also placed in the bound of Mars. Uh, Oops, Venus has no reception as well. So yeah, Mercury, third and 12th rule in the sixth house. I mean, anyway, challenging planets in a challenging house. And we don't need to kind of think more about it. But still, I think trade and commerce will suffer, and the overall economic situation of the nation will certainly suffer during this period as well. So yeah. So thank you so much for watching. That's basically what I had. And so one of the most important things that I have is that I'm not on anyone's side, and I just see what I talk. Before 2 years, I mentioned that Russian situation will be only better despite the sanctions, uh, and I have no stakes. I had no stakes with Russia then, and now I'm seeing the astrology is very, very challenging. And here I'm saying that Russia is going through a major challenge. So I don't really have any particular stake with any country. So whatever I say is basically what I see through the charts. So if you want to receive my weekly newsletter, uh, where I share a lot of my insights on transits, you may subscribe through Substack, or you can visit my website and register your email ID. And you can also get in touch with me on social media. And I only have the same name everywhere, the AB Verdict, which is also my website, and also goes as my social media handles. So yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.